Hey Duncan, how's it going? Just having a look at your blocking for this week. Seeing your public review again. And yeah, it's looking really cool. The attitude of both of the characters is much, much, much clearer now, and it's going in a very interesting direction. Things that kind of like jump out at me a little bit, especially on the male character, are a lot of kind of like changes in place on where he's actually, talking. So, for example, when he comes forward and he stretches himself out into this big pose in frame 36, he then kind of like goes all the way back, and by frame 90, he's kind of like gone forward quite a chunk and then gone back a little bit. I think you can maybe tone that down a little bit, because currently as it's playing, the moment when he kind of like pulls up, and says, look at that, and he holds, I think you can hold that pose that you've got in frame 40, and you can make him work a little bit more within that pose, because he does seem to be changing, kind of like where he's actually going to be going, from one place to another quite a bit. If you have a look from frame 40, we go back, and from frame 60, there's kind of like a jump to halfway to where he is, and then by 70 he's all the way back, and I think that movement can be shorter and you can do it further on. So very much what I think you can do is just keep him in that pose that he's at in frame 40 pretty much until you get to frame 70, and then at frame 70 you can just drop him back down over a shorter period of time. See how much time it actually needs for you to just settle back a little bit like that, because currently it would be like he's just drifting back slowly over about 50 frames instead of being in one position and then just going, look how she moves, which I think's a little bit clearer in one way, and it also allows you to just be a bit more kind of like clearer, with the spine as well. So the spine, instead of drifting back like this, is just going to pop back like that, and that way you can get that to be a little bit clearer. Small little notes to kind of like look at her. One of the things of when he goes to have a drink as well, in frame 148, have a look at him actually drinking up like that, because currently he's leaning back. It's a bit, I think, too exaggerated to an extent. So he's going to drink up a bit, but he's doing this, as if he's actually going to take this huge swing. And if it's just like that, I think it just can be a bit more subtle. You don't need all of the back rotation that you've got over here, because he kind of like does that big swing. So from frame 140 to frame 153, I think that can be just a much more subtle move, so he's going to do something and he stops way before he reaches the end of the action that he's going to do, because it's almost as if he was going to complete that action, he was drinking from up here, if you get what I mean. Okay, so I think that the frame aim on frame 153 can just be a bit more subtle as well, and very much, it's one of those frames where I think it's really that the motion itself isn't coming from all the way down in the hips. It's pretty much just coming from here. It's a little light rise in the chest. It's rising the hand up, keeping the balance here. And then the chin pretty much is the thing that's doing all of the main motion. So it's not coming from way down here. It's actually more in this upper area to an extent. Yeah. And I think that when he's... I like the way that he looks down at the bottle and then kind of like gets distracted again. That really works. Maybe the elbow in frame 155 can be a little bit more turned towards camera a bit, and just look out for your silhouettes. Everything's kind of like working okay, but his arms just seem a little bit IK'd, if you know what I mean. It might be FK'd, but they just look a little bit rigid, I think. It just looks like the hands are drifting a little bit too much. And last note on him, the thing that I think that at the end, you pretty much need a change of expression around frame 233, just because, when he sees her walk off, I think that's a good moment to sell what his reaction is, which can be 2, 3, or 4 different ways, really, but evidently the obvious ones can be, that his reaction is he looks over and he's looking for affirmation for what he's saying, so it's like, oh yeah, you agree with this, don't you? Or it can be, oh, I've just been a bit of a dick, so I think that, in the last frame, you just want to change his attitude there to something, where it's either, he's going to be looking for something, he's just going to turn over, oblivious, and then go into affirmation or whatever emotion it is. But it's a good moment to sell what's his reaction just at the very end, and just throw that in for a second. So he looks over, what's he thinking at that point, and just refine that last attitude pose over here, because kind of like he's got that smug grin, he looks over, but the pose that you've got on frame 230, it's just a little bit too neutral. It could be going either way. It could be, did I do something wrong? It could be, what do you think? It's just that halfway, in between there, where it could be two different things. Just push it to make it a little bit clearer. And with her, she looks really good. Her femininity is much clearer. I love all the little stuff that she does, the way that she looks, the way that she kind of like gets close to him tentatively. It's almost like one of the things that's cool here that you could break up a little bit more is that in frame 146, you could break up the action of her coming close to him and then rising up a little bit. You've got it, because currently she's going in like this, but it might be better just to do it in two steps, where she kind of like goes to get at him, and then kind of like takes the step towards him, and then tries, to come up a little bit more. So I like the way that she's doing it, but she's kind of like doing it on an arc now, and I think it might be different if you time it maybe in two steps, where it's and it just takes a little bit longer instead. And then her reaction when she kind of like gets surprised in frame 89. I think here there's something that you do a little later on in the shot where the glass that she's actually holding, she tips it all the way down at one point. So by frame by frame 99, you've got the cups literally on its edge. Anything that would be in it would just be pouring out by that point. And it's almost a nice moment there for the cup to go down the whole time. So it's like, look at that, look how she moves. And she drops, it's kind of like her expectations go completely down, and that's just a good moment for it just to drop down the entire way. Just as a little bit of secondary action there. I think that's the right moment to show it. It will work with the facial expression. It'll work, with the motion as well. And since you're dropping the cup all the way down, don't do it, 10 frames later. Do it when she realizes it, and just have her hand just drop down, and just imagine, the martini or whatever is in the glass just pouring out at that point. And I think that will be, kind of like, it'll just be strong. You'll read it really clear. It's just upping the punch of that a little bit more. And then when she looks off to the side, I think you lose a little bit. She feels a bit masculine at frame 110, and I'm not sure why. I think that, it's not that she needs to be frail, but she needs to be a bit more, it's kind of like it's difficult to see what she's thinking here. I think it's one of those things that she's got to be angry in a slightly more feminine way, which is kind of like it's just I'm not entirely sure of how you can push this pose right now, but there's just something there that just needs a little bit more attitude. And then as she looks back at him, he's evidently hurt. She's evidently hurt. I don't think you need to raise the glass up on frame 185. I think you can keep it just down, and have her walk off, because the glass is empty. It's maybe at that point it's the glass is there. She doesn't care about it anymore. And then as she walks off, there's quite a nice piece of attitude there. I really like the way that she does the take down on 174. She turns round and then walks off screen. I think that's great. The only thing that for me is adding a little bit extra work to you is I would have her leave shot. So for me it's just it's a completely personal thing, but I feel that a shot always works better, even if you had to add 10-12 frames at the end of it, to have a character leave shot instead of just having them almost reach and then we cut. Just because it's it's that end of what they were talking about in the editing session of ballistic cycles. It's just we see the end, we just look at that, she walks out of shot, boom, we cut. It's a natural place to make a cut, and although your demo reel doesn't need that specifically, It's as I said before, it's a matter of taste. You know, it's just one of those things of, you know, it's just bows tied at the end of the package. It's finished. You know, it's just one thing that you can hand off. But it's looking great, man. You know, you've got some really, really, really nice work. You know, it's amazing how much stuff you've put in over the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, go for it, man. You know, and keep pushing it. And if you need anything, well, you know where we are. Take care.